Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome. So we have had several amazing moderators in the since yesterday actually, and I'm the only moderator that has already been fired. So this is the story, a true story. My friend, I thought he was a friend, Albert, around May this year. We had a conversation, very friendly conversation as always, inspirational. And he said, look, we have to organize some tables around generative AI and law. Absolutely, yeah, I can do one. No, actually, it's the thing, it has to be more long-term. It's a journey. He's the magic word he keeps using. I still didn't get it. So he says, it's a journey. Generative AI is not something that is going to go away. It's something that actually we should learn, take the time, and build together. It's more important, the community, than actually the knowledge itself, as we demonstrated last night with, I don't know how many beers, etc. Community, remember. I did it for the community. So we started in June, this series of roundtables. In June, the first one was an introduction, and then a second one, very technical, amazing technical talk, and the third one was the impact on law firms, and the fourth one was impact on the access to justice, something that we are all very passionate about. Today's I'm being fired, I said, because it's the last roundtable, I promise, and this is very particular because, and we are very happy to have it in real life, live, in presence. And we are going to wrap up these 5 roundtables around the impact on generative AI on corporate departments. But it's also a general wrap up on generative AI, if we could. Actually, I think we are going to open more doors than the ones we are going to close. So I really appreciate Manuel and Elen. You notice that the artificial intelligence is not so smart. She didn't notice that Colin Levy unfortunately couldn't make it today, but actually we won, I would say. We have Elen Irazabal with us, and is going to give us a very deep and technical perspective and critical perspective. That is what I love particularly. So, enough about me. Well, I'm Alejandro Pérez, obviously, and I'm part of the board of the advisory board of the Global Legaltech Hub. Let's start with a quick introduction about yourself, but besides an introduction, why are you passionate about these things? Why brings you here? Elen, if you would like.
I start?
Yes,
well, I've been passionate about artificial intelligence for a long time ago now. I've always been passionate about human rights, but you see what I end up doing, which is programming and AI. But I saw the importance of AI, especially in the legal sector, because while I was practicing law, you could notice so many things go wrong, right, in the legal sector, so many things. So the room of improvement is such a big improvement that when by that time artificial intelligence wasn't so popular, it was more popular big data. So with the big data, there was many articles, conferences, and etc. about the impact on health, law, and stuff. And I thought, wow, this is going to change everything. So I thought, okay, this might be the future, not politics. So that's why I started learning programming and the technical parts of artificial intelligence, which is precisely what I try to do with lawyers, because I think that lawyers lack technical knowledge, and I think it's one of the main issues with artificial intelligence. So, so here I am today trying to transmit that to the public.
Excellent, thanks. But I think it's going to become political more
well,
sooner than later.
For sure.
Okay, we are going to the...
For sure, yes.
Manuel.
Okay, yeah. Well, first, I would say thanks for having me, right? So we're very happy to share. I would say I'm here. I'm kind of a rare profile because before studying law, I studied engineering. Yeah, my dad was an engineer. There was like a tradition in the family, so I broke his heart when, along the way I decided to change career paths and become a lawyer, which is one of the professions engineers in general do not look up to, right? And but I always kept this interest for technology, and so I would say what brings me here, to be here. First, that I was invited, and thank you very much. Second, to give you my condolences for you being fired. It's so hard to be fired live. Huh?
Do you know a lawyer?
I'm a lawyer, but not a labor lawyer. It's the same with doctors. You don't go with something on your skin to a heart doctor, right? So it's kind of the same. So, but I can find you someone, right? I would say I think two things bring me here. The first one is that I think all these technological change around which, or that is really the reason for the Global Legaltech Hub to be born. I would say it's all about sharing, and isn't it great? We lawyers used to be so into our papers. Our table. These are my clients. Get away from them. This is my team. Don't mess with it. There was like the general thing, and I think all this technology wave, really messed our minds up quite a bit, and I think we really became conscious that there was, it's still about competing, and competing is good because it brings out the best of us and our services and everything, but it's also about cooperation. There's this word Albert uses, this co-petition, a mix of cooperation and competition. I like it very much. So that's the first thing. The second is that I started as a lawyer in my career, and because I had maybe this thing for an interest in technology, when technology came along, I volunteered for the first project in firms like mine. I work at Deloitte. If you volunteer, you are a volunteer for anything that comes up, right? So I was the volunteer for the next 3 in a row, and then we started to discuss technology with clients, and we started to give some consulting. And so I had already volunteered like 5 years prior, and that was it. And from that, many years of working with and being very close to corporate departments, because if this is about corporate departments, I'm kind of an intruder. So why I'm here, because I try to sum up the experience of many conversations with general counsels, with chief legal operations officers, with technology transformation profiles and legal function. And so I would say that's the two things. I do have a passion for how technology is going to change the profession, but to improve the profession for at the end of the day, for the end user. Things like the future of justice and these kind of things are really, I think the game is really changing nowadays.
Excellent, thanks. An intruder and optimistic. So, we are celebrating also almost a birthday. On November 22nd last year, we all saw, I can't remember what I was doing, but we all saw the news. OpenAI opened ChatGPT for everyone. And I'm pretty sure most of our lives change. Why is that, Elen? Why it makes it different than artificial intelligence in general, or maybe the retrieval artificial intelligence that we saw since 2015?
Well, I would say, first of all, that it was ChatGPT for us, right? Because it's a natural language processing application. But you could see prior ChatGPT that something was going to happen. Because we were having generative AI for images, for instance, Stable Diffusion, Midjourney. And so we could see that the way natural language processing was not the same as when I started studying it. One of the factors, because there are many, but I really like pointing out one of them, was the Transformers revolution, thanks to Google, since I think it was 2017. And thanks to this, we were able, prior to that, we were doing single applications, like one task application in natural language processing. And the thing was that deep learning was not able to memorize all the text we were given to learn. So it was not able to connect all the let's say, connections in the text, right? And this was a very big problem. That's why we were not seeing many applications that could summarize text or whatever, right? Like we needed interpretation or we needed like coherent text. And now with transformers, this was, let's say, overcome. And we were able to connect, even in 1 million text, all the connections in one sentence, for instance, right? The verbs with the adjective with the names, etc., right? So we had like grammatical rules learned. So that made possible GPTs, right? Not only ChatGPT, but GPTs. What happened that with ChatGPT, there are so many data, I mean, basically whole of internet to learn from. That means that we have more examples to learn from. And that is why we can make better text, right? And that means that we can now have multitask, not only summarize, we can explain things for us, etc., etc. Well, everybody, I guess, has tried ChatGPT, so you all know what can do. And we'll see what the future brings us. But maybe it's not about generative AI, it's about AI in general. That's why I always focus not to focus only in generative AI, because it has been with us very, very little time. We don't really know where we're going to be in 5 years or 10 years' time.
Thank you. I don't know where I'm going to be tomorrow. Manuel, moving forward in this year, obviously you are in a privileged point of view. You have Deloitte and all the research and content production. What have you found out? What data can you share with us about the corporate department's evolution in this year?
Okay. All right. So I would say first, I think there's a lot being written and discussed, which is good, right? I would say in general. There is a bit of the problem with how we tackle predictions, because we are, again, as we did 5 years ago, and this was, I would say, to some extent unforeseeable back then. But then we made the predictions 5 years ago. Now we're making the predictions for the next 5 years. But we don't know what the next ChatGPT, so to speak, is. When and what is going to come along, right? And also, we're discussing. I mean, I think GPT is all the buzz, but any of the LLMs. But really, as they evolve and new versions come up, it's really hard to see like behind the curtain what's coming next, right? I would say. I think. I think there's quite a bit of research in general. I think the ELTA research that was released recently, for me, was very enlightening because it showed like a super positive, super optimistic approach to Gen AI, which I think is good because we lawyers are so good at resisting, right, technology and changes. So I think I would say the first thing in our conversations and our research is that I would say that the tipping point of this technological landscape, transformation landscape, is already here, I would say. I think one of the reasons, and adding to what Elen said, is that when there's a technology breakthrough, you need to bring it down to legal, right? And sometimes the disruption doesn't affect legal or doesn't impact legal so much. But in this case, even the general AI can contribute so much as it is already to the legal function. It's amazing. So we can build on that. We can increase the. So I would say that the fact that and there's a paper. I would say there's 2 papers. We issue many papers. I don't read all of them. I must confess here in this small group, right? Because it's a bit too much. I could spend my days going to meetings and reading papers issued by Deloitte, and that's not what I'm paid for. But I think there's 2. One of them was issued by Deloitte Legal back in June, I think it was, and it's not a very deep paper, which is good because I'm a lawyer, right? So I need to understand what I read. And it went very much about, what corporate legal departments should do when they're tackling this issue. So it's like, I would say, like first steps, right? And I think it's good. And it dives a bit into what, why this change. And, I think legal always resisted change for a number of reasons, and one of them was how we work on this unstructured data. But but that excuse with the current AI status, it no longer works. Because unstructured data is fine to work with. I think that's really the changer. The other thing is that even the general use case can really contribute. But sorry, I have my notes because I'm getting old. I know you cannot tell, but I am. So. So I would say I think the second moment was when Dan Katz issued this paper about GPT-4 passing the bar exam. That was really, really, really scary, wasn't it? Interesting. If you want to cheat, if you are a cheater person, I'm not. If you were.
I mean, for sure, in my case, it would have done much better than me, for sure. I mean, I have no doubt in that.
No way. But so I think, I would say the first thing about the difference between this wave and the previous ones, I think this one, there are not many lawyers that are able to defend their reluctance any longer, with a solid ground, right? I would say, yeah, I think that's come. The other thing is that I think even general AI can bring so many use cases already. So our experience, and I'm speaking from, I think, so the legal function nowadays, the corporate legal departments are really starting. I think the mindset has, they are aware that this has come to stay. They are already exploring in general. Some of them are not exploring. They know they should be, and they will tackle it sometime in the next X months. I don't know how many. And and some of them are doing like serious stuff, but not that many, I would say. So proofs of concept, yes. Testing ideas. When you're working with the general AI already existing, that's kind of okay to try and see how things work. If you go deeper, then cases become much more complex, and then you need to tackle them differently. And then legal, mustn't fly alone, I would say. The other thing is it's from a paper. It's pretty basic, but I think it's interesting, from our Deloitte Generative AI Institute. And when they kind of explain this to use case analyzers, they say this like, you need kind of like in your mind, you need to kind of like to draw a matrix, right? So I should probably have brought a figure out, would have helped a lot. But if you take like the vertical axis and you put how much effort the use case requires if you don't use AI, and in the other one, and hard would be at the top, right? From easy to hard. And at the other one, you consider, how hard is it to evaluate the output of the AI, right? And you do it differently. Hard, you put it at the beginning, at the 0, right? So the easier it is. So if you come with a use case that is hard to generate the output, but easy to check, then you have a very interesting, I would say generate AI or AI in general use case, right? So the examples it gives is like, it says like writing a joke. Coming up with a good joke is really difficult. But to test if the joke is good, you just need to say it aloud and look at the crowd. No one is laughing. Okay, that's not the good one, right? You go for another one. Or, or draw an image, right? I'm a very poor drawer, so, that drawing is difficult. But seeing if you want to draw is any good is pretty quick. And then it comes with a different example, which is interesting. Writing like a first draft of an agreement is something that is difficult. And it may be hard or difficult to check the output depending on whether you are a legal expert or not. So if you are, it's easy, right? And then if it's easy, then that's something, that's a good use case because the output is hard to come by. Then if you get the output and checking it is quick, that's very good. If you're not a legal expert, then you still get the contract pretty quick, but then you are unable to check whether the contract is a good contract or it's, it has some random stuff from the internet or whatever, and it's not, and it's kind of risky, really, right? So it's called, I'm going to read it because it's, it's called the Digital Artifact Generation Validation Method. It's really easy to remember, right? So I think that's one of the things that came up. And the other is, this evolution from the general AI into more use cases where you include your corpus of data, and that makes the use much more interesting, or you go to more specific language models, which are not, more I would say legal device. I think that's pretty much it in terms of, of research. And there's, papers and all types of things, but I think that one was interesting. But it was something like quick to check, a quick and dirty check.
Super. And probably we can share the link then later in the comments.
Sure, indeed.
But moving forward with you, just as if I may, so you were talking on the impact on your clients, but how it impact in your delivery of services to those clients?
Okay. Okay, a second. Sorry. So I would say it impacts. Our view is that the corporate legal department is like in the middle of a hurricane right now. There's AI everywhere. The business are pulling from them in all directions, and it's really difficult. So I would say, and we are consultants and lawyers, and we provide services to these corporate legal departments. So the tensions that they have, indeed, they do pass them through to us, of course, right? So I would say, so they need something, they always, the corporate legal departments always needed to have a very strong, deep, sound knowledge of what the business needed in terms of legal implications, and Gen AI is a hard one, right? So we have clients that have become very good digital lawyer clients. Others have decided, to become experts themselves, because that's the way they tackle these kind of problems. So I would say that's the first thing. The second is that in their day-to-day, in their operations, if you like, they, how the corporate function works, they need two things from us that are not, we're present, but not to the same extent. First is they need us to help them in their redesigning of the legal function. And that includes everything, from strategy to tactics to catalog to, and to the technology and the impact of AI there, right? So that would be one thing, the consulting bit. And the other is that we as lawyers or ALSP or whatever we are, but also all the rest of the lawyers and all the rest of the providers of the legal function, we need to think differently and to be much more cost conscious, and to bring all these technologies that sometimes the legal function cannot work on because of lack of size of use case. They need us to include in our services so that they can benefit from them indirectly, I would say. So we have, if an example, right? So there are many, and the use cases, this new Gen AI stuff is good at summarizing, which is something lawyers do, at analyzing text, which is something we do, at drafting text, which is something we do, and you add everything, and you say, well, this is very much at the core of what I do and of the matter I use in my work and my services, right? And some use cases will become possible because of that. And an example would be, so we have been providing regulatory mapping services to clients for many, many years. So thing is that, in some areas, like financial regulation, for instance, keeping up to date with what's all the regulations that are being approved and the ones that are coming by, that's still drafts or bills or whatever, is really hard. So there's a service there for clients to keep an eye on this for them and keep them posted. Now, the thing is that, if you have a small scope, that's something a bunch of lawyers can do, right? If you have 50 countries and different areas of interest, then you start putting men there and women. They're all very efficient. They work very hard, but the figures, they don't add up. They don't, right? So what we're experiencing right now is that in some cases, offering a combination of these services, this knowledge, this expertise, plus the technology. And I think there's a transparency demand from the clients, which is good, right? That in some jurisdictions, we will be able to, at an efficient cost, because of the relevance of the jurisdiction for the client or whatever, we can put one or more lawyers working there. But in others, they just need a glimpse of what's going to happen or what's happening. And then, adding some all-staff technology like web scraping, plus some AI capabilities around identifying the right regulation, summarizing, being transparent with the client. That, in I don't know, in South Caledonia, right, where I don't have a legal team to serve you, but maybe I can agree with you that I give you a first glimpse of what comes, and the output is, is a tech solution, right? And and you are aware that it's not 100% reliable like my services would be, but it's good enough, and the figures add up.
Excellent, thanks. So Manuel just introduced so many of the key terms we have been hearing for the past year: use cases, unstructured data, scrapping, and this hybrid model between humans, lawyers, and AI. Could you give us an overview about these use cases, things that are working, things that are more risky, and what should we concretely could be doing to help legal departments?
Well, I would say, first of all, that I use ChatGPT almost every day. I have the paid version. So I'm a PhD student. So for investigation, I don't know if there are PhD students here or researchers. But for instance, you have a plugin in ChatGPT, which is Scholar AI. And when I need to find papers, you put which papers you need, in favor, against, for, I don't know, against, or critical analysis for the AI Act of the European Union. And it gives you the papers. I mean, sometimes are wrong. Sometimes they don't really, have much to do with the topic. But maybe out of 5, you can choose 2, which is good, right? It's pretty good. Instead of you going to Google Scholar and finding for yourself and keep scrolling and whatever. And I use it also for making videos. I use it for summarizing PDFs. I use it for many, many things. The thing is that what we are seeing in AI, especially with ChatGPT, which is ChatGPT used this case, is that prior to ChatGPT, we had, let's say, made it right? So at the end of the day, it was like very much human supervised. Right now, with large language models, because we have so many data, you cannot have a team of humans annotating data for days and days and hours, right? I mean, it's costly. I think it's a task that no one really wants to do. I don't know if anybody has ever annotated data for AI. I have done it, and it's really routinary, right? So now what is happening? AI is doing it for itself. So that means that human oversight, in a way, is getting away, in a sense, right? In my view, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing, because it's probably doing it better, and it's going to get better doing it, right? But it's really a contradictory approach of the regulation is going to come up. And I think also about the view that some lawyers have about AI, which is more human oversight is better. Not necessarily, right? I mean, if you put 10 human beings, let's say lawyers, summarizing, I don't know, the GDPR, everyone is going to make the same summary? Probably not, right? But maybe AI can be able to do it more objectively. Yes? So I think we need to, all the time we judge AI, we tend to judge it from a standpoint of being ethically worse than us, and that's why we demand more ethical approach, right? Like regarding transparency, bias, we are all biased, right? I mean, we are not really able to eliminate bias in humans, right? Imagine eliminating political bias. I think it's practically impossible, right? But in AI, we do have resources to eliminate bias, or at least mitigate it, right? In some approaches not, but in some others, yes. And most of the approaches of bias comes from human beings, right? Regarding transparency, for instance, are we humans always transparent? When we reach a decision, we're not, right? And we are demanding AI to be, which is a good thing, but we need to be aware that is not always possible. Meaning not being always possible doesn't mean we don't want to be transparent, which I think is a really important distinction, right? Because we tend to imagine AI as bad, right? And in this regard, it's not. Sometimes it's not possible, right? So when we are dealing with regulation, when we are approaching artificial intelligence, we have a higher standard for AI. We demand more ethical approach. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a good thing, right? So that's why I think the most important thing lawyers have to do is understand artificial intelligence and have their own judgment.
Indeed. And do they understand?
Sometimes. I mean, depends on the education they receive, right? I mean, you cannot expect should be the approach. But I think also lawyers need to understand that it's not AI use cases what we need to learn, but what we need to learn is AI understanding.
Very interesting. Last week I was in another meeting, and a managing partner said to me something very, very interesting. He said, look, Ale, you always ask us, managing partners, to be believers. No, ask us to understand. We need to understand, not to believe you.
Yeah,
correct.
That's a good one.
I took it personally.
If may I add something, about bias, there's, I don't have the reference because I'm lousy at data, but there was this experiment that was carried out by a university. So they took a stack of prison cases, and they were to be, you know that one, maybe you can tell it better. But they offered to law practitioners, they had to revise the criminal file of a guy that had been put in prison some time ago, and it was like a review. Should they be, released already, or maybe not, or whatever. And they did this experiment with 10 people for a number of days. And trying to, and what they came up with is that the final thing that tipped the balance into the fellas being released or not was whether it was very close to lunchtime, and the practitioner could only think of, wow, 30 minutes to go, wow, 25 minutes to go, and those cases, these guys, they had, all were denied, right? It was just an experiment, but you cannot take that out of the equation. I think it's something that there's to stay. The other thing is, I was discussing with a colleague that's here, about prompting and the importance of prompting, of doing the right prompting when you're asking. And we were discussing whether, because it's like learning. And I was comparing it because I don't look it, but I'm quite old, right? So when I started working, Microsoft Disk operating system was all in the rage, right? And you had to keep all these things in your mind and the commands and everything. And it is true that disappeared with Windows, but it is also true that the structure in your mind was kept there. So maybe learning how AI works and learning all this about prompting helps you understand what you need to input in order to get a right output. And I think that's something that is kind of building the right structures into your mind. I think that's. But I agree with Elen. I think understanding. This is all about understanding what it is about.
But the thing is, I think prompting is not going to last long.
Yeah.
I know.
That's
No.
it.
Why?
I think machines will be able to do it. So it's not something, that's why I keep saying, right? We need to have a permanent way of thinking about AI, right? Not only about applications. And learning prompting is something that I teach. It's easy once you understand AI, because you know the limitations, right? So I see many lawyers in my classes giving really limited prompting, like thinking that ChatGPT is going to discover for them what they want. And it's like, AI doesn't work like that, right? And I think it's not because prompting issue, it's an issue of not understanding AI.
Yes, telepathy doesn't work. No.
Correct.
Talking about this, because we are, the three of us, very passionate about the skills and how to organize a team and how to perform education. Manuel, going back to you, you have a big team. Can you tell us what inside, how you make that team, what kind of skills do you get, and more importantly also, what you've seen outside that works, the ideal team for one of these projects in one of your clients.
Okay.
What are the figures?
Yeah, so I would say, and also following up on what Ellen raised, I think if this is all about understanding, this is about all of us, starting like a learning cycle, and because things are going to change. Prompting will disappear, say, in 18 months, for instance, whatever. But something else, there's other things. So I think that I would say that the first thing about the skill set and the team, and I think they're very connected, is the need for this perception of the change in the game, to be there, this awareness, right? So that should start like a process where you start to delve into AI and how it works, as we did with other types of technology, right? So that would be the first thing. That gets us into a training, a need for training, and that's to keep it up. And then about the skill set, the team, I would say the first thing is we need to change our mindset. I remember a client told me, we were discussing about skill sets in the team. So when we do transformation projects, so there's something that always comes along the way. If you're working with a project with a corporate that already started a transformation project, maybe they are there. But if they're like scratching now, starting to think about it, there's always a topic or an issue with the skill set. So you will always need to do an upskilling, reskilling kind of project. You can do it internally because what we needed 20 years ago, what we need now is so different. That's one thing. The other, the team composition. So we do have engineers. We have people dedicated to analytics. I would say all the sorts of profiles that we used to have are still valid and more relevant than ever. That would be the first thing. The other is you need to put, if you're really going to go for this, you really need to put some AI expertise into the mix. You need that, right? And then I would say if you're putting so many profiles together, there's a couple of things you usually need to bear in mind. First is that lawyers and other things don't mix well. Yeah, right? I would say, so we lawyers tend, I don't know if this can be said out loud, but anyways, I'm going to... Yeah, never mind. So lawyers as a group tend to look down to the rest of the people they mingle with. Not clients, of course, they look up to their clients, but other than that, if you put in a team 5 lawyers, one person who is very good at admin stuff, and then an engineer, and if it's a small team, they will probably work out quite well. But if you've got a big group, you will get a distinction sometime down the line. Now that's super typical in law firms. You have the professional team, and you have the others, which are unprofessional, I would guess, right? And that's
non-legal.
Non-legal, but they're kind of deemed like this is a meeting only for the professional team, and the rest say like, okay, so I'm an amateur, I guess, right? So that's one thing. The other is, and that's a thing about changing the lawyer's mindset, which is very interesting, right? If you have a profile like Sarah, that's a good thing. So that's one thing. The other is that if you're mixing so many profiles that are so different, then project management, comes top of the pile. You need very good, I would say, very good project management skills in the mix. You need someone to think really, what the need is, what the use case is built about, how you're going to bring all these fantastic people to work together towards what goals, in what timing. And and it's I would say project management and and also a bit of political management among the groups also helps, I would say. So so our experience would be, so I think this has changed a bit how general counsels tackle technology transformation, in my view, right? Because up to 1 year ago, it was still about finding the good use case that made sense, that had some sort of either an ROI or or really contributed in terms of risk management. That was the other thing, right? And with that, they could sometimes jump directly to the technology with some risk, of course, but if they were lucky, they would land with a good provider, and that was good, or maybe they hired some consulting or whatever, right? But really, a team of lawyers as end users, clients, so to speak, dealing with the rest of the ecosystem kind of worked. In this kind of projects, our experience now is that the mix is so complex. It's I would say it's more about bringing a lot of profiles together from the client and from our side. So we have a project that is now in the end of the, I would say, the first phase, the discovery. Is a technology company. It's in, I would say, like 40 jurisdictions, and they had this big project with how to leverage this technology and core-related technologies, how to leverage this into all their share services center, and how to bring out the best of it. And so it's a really complex project. So we have people from our side, legal management consulting. We have people from legal, pure legal, subject matter experts that are going to contribute with all the contracting, all the contracting that is going to be the matter of the project, right? We're going to have from our side consultants developing things and connecting things. We're going to have consultants experts on AI, and on the client side, it's pretty much the same. So the most relevant stakeholder is legal, but legal is pulling from their IT people, their AI people, and that brings together a really, I would say, a motley crew, indeed. And so if the project is ambitious, I would say the likelihood of legal flying solo and getting to the goal is pretty tough.
If you let me add something, I don't know
Sure,
if you
indeed.
agree. I find in my students, especially law students, that they have this idea of engineers that are like professionals who don't follow the rules. Like they don't understand, right, the rules we impose from legal, for instance, and I always have to tell them that the technical staff have their own rules that they have to follow, and there are the technical limitations, right, which are many, right? And from the other side, you find engineers finding lawyers very into rule mindset, like you cannot do this, you have to do it this way, and you have to do it that way. So I think that the division is pretty big in that sense. But I think from the law point of view, the regulation doesn't help, right? Because we have to comply with our regulation, even though sometimes we don't agree, right? So it's really difficult to tell engineers. So I remember one of my conferences last year was full of engineers, and it was about making engineers feel empathetic towards lawyers. And talking with them about...
Like pet them and these kind of things.
Yeah, like saying, see how fucked up we are,
Yoga class.
Like we cannot decide which regulations we apply. We have to deal with the justice administration, which is really messed up in Spain. And at the end of the day, we have to, build and stuff, and sometimes we don't even like what we do, right? It's really a small part. So, like you have to really make them empathize with you because it's really hard for them to understand us.
It is. Yeah. I think there's an engineer in the room, so I want to go in deeper into that. But we've had a couple of cases where we bring our consultants to work with a legal thing, right? Not a legal department properly, but and the thing is that they tend to try and optimize the process, which is good unless the process is written in a law, right? In that case, you need to follow the process, even if you don't like it. But that's not very, it's not very optimized. Maybe it's not, but but it's in the regulation.
You have no choice.
Yeah. So
right.
This kind of thing, I think really it's a bit of a challenge. It's a good challenge, though. Makes you, makes people, understand a bit better where everybody comes from. Yeah.
Well, after all these comments, I'm definitely going to be fired. So but she started. You started when you make the pause between human beings and lawyers. You started this conversation. you gave the tone. So going back to data, because we start to wrap up. But also during the past days and in general this year, we have two teams, right? We have one team of people being very worried about artificial intelligence and the impact, and then the others that are already running to create their own LLMs. I have a lot of people saying, okay, they are going to build LLMs for each law firm, for each corporate department. So what it means, what are we talking of something that is possible? It makes sense to create your own LLM?
I mean, depends. So I know people who have developed but not their own LLMs, like from based on OpenAI, for instance, technology, and sometimes it doesn't work, right? Because maybe it's not right for you, maybe it doesn't work because they have technical limitations and you need to wait until the next update from OpenAI, for instance. You have also, I think the open source is working on smaller models, right? And I think that is more viable to implement. Because also it depends. I mean, if you are Deloitte, maybe it makes sense. But if it's for me, probably not, right? So it really depends on everybody. I'm not going to give like an exact answer what everybody should do. I think depends on your resources, depends the money you have, depends on the people you have, depends on the technological development of the moment, too. And I would also say, which is probably what the thing that people don't think about, is what type of technology do you really need? Maybe at the moment it's not AI. Maybe at the moment for you, GPT-4 is fine. In my case, for instance, right? GPT-4 is fine. So why would I start doing my own model, right? So that is the thing we need to think about. It's not saying, okay, let's put AI everywhere. That's not the point. I think the point that what lawyers should do is start thinking in terms of data. Start making decisions in terms of data, and start thinking or start implementing, taking the initiative to, let's say, classifying their data and making knowledge out of their data. I think that's the most important point. And then AI would come, right? If you need it or not.
Excellent.
There's, if may I add to that, so there's a thing we have in our, in our consulting practice, which is about killing the shiny things. It was back in the day with blockchain. People wanted blockchain, but whatever do you need blockchain for? If I may ask, so maybe you don't have a document management system, or maybe so there are so many things to tackle, and I think AI is great, and I think it's here to stay, which is a good thing, but I think step by step, I think. And I think, there are so many things that can be contributed from technology before, yeah.
Thank you. So, moving forward also, to wrap up with an maybe optimistic at this point, I'm not sure what you're going to say. What do you expect for the next, going back to our motto, the next 1,000 days? What do you expect to see? If we are here, maybe in 3 years' time, what do you expect the developments to be?
Me?
Maybe I can look into the audience and they look back and I look back at you. Now, you want to go first or I can go first?
You can go first.
So I don't know, right? So I can say it, so she doesn't have to say it. Because if I think what I said 1,000 years ago, I didn't, 1,000 days ago, I didn't hit the mark that much, right? So what I think is that, this is, and we have been talking about game changers for quite a bit. And but I think this is really gonna change the landscape and how we tackle the technology. This is we have come to a point in time where really even the most reluctant lawyer will be unable to defend himself from what is going to come on him, right? So I think the other thing is I think so in the technology landscape we will see more and more that is close to the legal needs, and that's going to be super positive. I think in general the perception is quite positive and people want to use it in corporate legal departments, etc. And I think that's going to have an impact, maybe not in the next 1,000 days, but maybe a bit longer, in how we configure our teams, not only in terms of skill set, but also in terms of numbers and in terms of everything. But I don't know what the outcome will be. But we already know that, and when e-discovery started quite a bit ago, it also changed. So you no longer needed 200 lawyers in a basement with electric light and no water working for a week in a row, finding the right documents, right? So it's going to change a lot how we work together, I think.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think in the short, mid-term, we're going to see for sure more generative AI in the legal sector. And outside the legal sector, I think we're going to see more reasoning capabilities of like applications like ChatGPT. Reasoning, I think video is going to come quite hard because images are already, I don't know, I don't think they can get any better. I don't know, right? They're already really good. And I think video is going to be a really big hit. And reasoning, and that will come with prompting also. I think the reasoning capabilities and natural language processing capabilities are going to probably improve. And that maybe might lead to something that we have not discovered yet, like something when Transformer came, maybe something will come like that in the following years. And I would like to see, this is more, I would like to see lawyers understanding more AI. That would be my message. Understand AI. Go to the background of AI. Don't only use ChatGPT, but go a bit prior to that and see the history of AI and see what nowadays can do, and even try some coding.
That's a very good thing. Easy too.
Yeah, I mean, with ChatGPT right now, it's really easy. So I teach how to code with ChatGPT, so I think it's really easy. Few years ago, it wasn't this easy, obviously, because we didn't have a tutor that could help you program. But now it is. So that's why, you can try a bit and see the logical programming, which I think is the most important thing.
Excellent. Well, we have a screen there that says time is up. My time is up also. So I appreciate a lot our participants, our speakers. I appreciate you all being here. And that's a wrap for Generative AI and Law series. Thanks so much.
Thank you.